So that was the start of some of my troubles. But so they took that course away from me. I was never allowed to give that class again. However, in the meantime, the students who had been in the course got a real taste of it and wanted it to happen, so they decided to propose the creation of a new course that would be called Science, Society, and Activism, and that they would, in the official course description, describe exactly the course that we had just had, and that it would be approved. There was no reason not to approve it in their minds. Now, a new course like this that is a free elective can take as short a time as 3 weeks to be approved. This course took 9 months and went through 16 committee meetings before it was approved. The students went into, because the committees kept sending it back to the previous committees and so on, the students went to all the committee meetings. They occupied the rooms. They made their arguments. The media was present and so on. And it was approved at the last minute, 1 week before the start of term. And everyone called it the activism course. It was called, it ended up, the VP academic rewrote the course description at the last minute, took out the word activism, but it was approved. And so it was given in the largest auditorium on campus. And the first speaker was a woman member of parliament from Afghanistan, Malala Joya. She came to describe how, under the puppet regime installed by the US and Canada, Afghanistan was in a much worse state than under the Taliban. And this woman is a grassroots activist for women's rights, a very brave woman who has had many threats against her life because she's pointing out that her colleague members of parliament are warlords, or ex-warlords and so on, and that you can't fairly run a society that way. So this was the first speaker of that course, and it was an absolutely exhilarating experience. It was a life-changing course for many, many students. It transformed the campus for several years. That was in 2006. That course was never given again. The administration after that year refused to assign it to any professor. And so it was eliminated from something that could be offered. I think one of the reasons for that is that the students started to express their agency in the institution. They started to discover activism. They started to force changes by all kinds of means, including lawsuits for breach of contract for not supplying enough TAs and this kind of thing. And the university, I think, got nervous about this rise in activism. That's how I understand it. So it was killed. The following year, I was to give a traditional physics course, a first-year physics course, a required course in the physics program, the physics and science program. And so I decided to implement some of the same methods into that hard science course. And so I eliminated grading, effectively eliminated grading, and to follow the curriculum, instead of following chapter by chapter what would be in the book, I decided to go into complex phenomena that students wanted to understand. So we looked for things we wanted to understand, and we talked about it. I was using the Socratic method, and we were trying to discover the answers. For example, one of the first questions that came up was, why is the sky blue? And a lot of students had heard the answer to that question in high school, so they thought they knew. And so there were a lot of students who said, well, we did that in high school, and they raised their hands. It turned out we pulled the partial answers and so on, and everything that students thought they knew about it mostly was wrong. Now, I didn't say that's wrong. I would try to get them to explain it. I would try to see if the other students understood what they were explaining and so on. By this process, they came to see that they had not understood it, that they really didn't know why the sky was blue. And through that process, they came to be able to understand the question. You know, what does it mean to ask, why is the sky blue? How do you recognize that you understand why the sky is blue, and so on? These are things that students are removed from. You know, you're asked to regurgitate whether you understand it or not. You're asked to grades are used to force you to follow deadlines and to give in homework and so on. And so we removed that, and we went into this exploration mode. It was highly successful. There was a more than 90% attendance rate, which is unheard of in a physics course. It's typically under 50% in these courses. They were bringing their friends, and we were learning things. And The final examination that I looked at was the first time in my career where I saw evidence that students had researched and understood things. I had never seen that ever before in a first-year physics exam. I mean, there are the odd exceptions, you know, individuals, but as a general rule, you don't see that. So it's always a very depressing thing to grade the final exam, but this was an exceptional experience, and so it was never allowed to occur again. From that point on, I was removed from all first-year teaching. The administration decided that we need to remove this person from large classes, and decided to assign me only fourth-year and graduate courses in physics, highly technical courses. So I took that as a challenge. Can one use critical pedagogy to teach highly technical physics at that high level? And so I went in that direction, and again, effectively removed, tried to find a mechanism whereby I could effectively remove the effect of grades. In the upper year physics courses, you cannot say to students, we'll do satisfactory, non-satisfactory, because they need to be graded in real terms, in real financial terms. They've got applications, scholarships, graduate school, and so on. So we went to a system where I told them that it was possible for everyone to get an A+. It was possible in the right environment for everyone to excel in terms of your development. You know, so I was using a student-centered approach, basically. And we went that route, and so I did 3 courses that way, a graduate course and 2 fourth-year courses, quantum mechanics, solid-state physics, and measurement theory, which are all courses I'd given before in the traditional way. And so we used this new method. It was, in my opinion, highly successful. It was a real challenge. Unlike in the first-year classes, the fourth-year students were, I found, much more indoctrinated and resisted the approach much more. For example, at the first class, students would say things like, but I can't learn if you don't force me to. And they said this very sincerely. Or they would say things like, how will I know that I understand if you don't give me a grade? How will I recognize it? And this is a very real problem. Students are driven to the point where they're not able to discern when they actually understand something. This is real in the sciences. This is a broad phenomenon. So these are the things we struggled with, and the students and I together we were able to get over this, and we had a wonderful time doing the classes this way. Some of the students never got used to the idea that they wouldn't be subjected to the usual oppression. They fought to be oppressed fairly. Okay? And so 3 students in one of the 3 courses wrote to the administration that was very happy to receive these comments about what was going on to the in the class. They weren't actual complaints. They were just descriptions, expressions of frustration, and so on. And that was used in one class as the pretext to fire me, ultimately. That was a course that was last year. So, but the real so that's what's happening on the pedagogical front. I believe that the actual reason that I was fired on March 31st is because of my dissidence.